from Florida.
Hare Krishna Padmasaki Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you Mataji for joining and giving your association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. My name is Niharika from Omaha.
Hare Krishna Niharika Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you Mataji for giving your beautiful association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Go ahead, Mataji.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Vinita Gandharvika Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharajas, and all glories to the assembled devotees. This is Tiffany in Pennsylvania. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Tiffany Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you Mataji for joining and giving your association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Vinita Gandharvika Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada. This is Radharani Devidasi from Baltimore.
Hare Krishna Radharani Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you Mataji for joining and giving your association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharajas. This is Sita Priti Devdasi from Pune.
Hare Krishna Sitapriti Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you Mataji for joining and giving your association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Vinta Gandharvika Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. This is Radha from Baltimore.
Hare Krishna Radha Mataji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you Mataji for joining and giving your association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Vinita Gandharvika Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev Vijay.
Hare Krishna Vrinda Gopika Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you Mataji for joining and giving your association. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, is there anyone who would like to introduce themselves before we start the call?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Guru Maharaj ki Jai. This is Shyama Gauri Dasi from Charlotte.
Hare Krishna Shyama Gauri Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you Mataji for joining and giving your association. Hare Krishna. Prabhuji is on the call just now. He's joining, I think. He needs to connect himself with the audio. Yeah, he's there. Hare Krishna. I welcome everyone to Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call. Today we are very fortunate to have His Grace Chakravarti Prabhu to enlighten us on topic Srimad Bhagavatam 4th canto 30th chapter verse 46 to 48 onwards. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much for joining and giving your valuable association and time this morning and enlighten us on topic of Srimad Bhagavatam. Before I hand over the call to Prabhuji, I would like to hand over the call to Tiffany Mataji to give brief introduction about Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Tiffany Mataji, please take over the call.
Hare Krishna, everyone. His Grace Chakravarti Prabhuji came in contact with ISKCON in the year 2005. He has done his MBA, HR in Symbiosis Institute of Business Management, Pune. It's one of the top business schools in India. He did it in 2008. Subsequently, he served as Human Resources Manager for Wipro Technologies. Since the time he came in touch with the spiritual wisdom of Bhagavad Gita, His Grace Chakravarti Prabhuji has been using his skills to inspire and teach people how to live a happy life. He decided to dedicate his life to serving humanity by sharing teachings of Bhagavad Gita under the aegis of ISKCON. And thus, in 2011, he became a full-time monk and a spiritual coach. His discourses on Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita in English, Hindi, and Sindhi are enlightening people across India and many parts of the world, including the US, China, Dubai, etc. He conducts various motivational seminars in prestigious universities like IITS and IITs and NITs, I'm sorry. Apart from preaching activities, His Grace Chakravarti Prabhuji is rendering many essential services like leading ISKCON India Deaf Preaching. He's the secretary for ISKCON India Youth Council. Also, he has been serving in ISKCON Juhu as chairman Brahmachari of the Brahmachari Council and HR director. He's a Temple Council Committee member and other leadership roles in ISKCON. So welcome, Chakravarti Prabhuji, and I now hand over the call to you. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 30, chapter entitled Activities of the Prachetas. Mataji, can you hear me?
There is slight breaking, Prabhu.
Slight breaking.
Yeah, there is little bit of breaking in voice. I think his video got struck tonight.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Mataji, I guess his internet connection, its video got struck. Yeah.
Mataji, we are connecting Prabhuji again from a different internet connection.
Oh,
That
okay.
the voice is clear.
Okay, Prabhuji, thank
Give
you.
us 2 minutes.
Hare Krishna Vinita Gandharika Mataji. This is Kamadaki Dasi from Baltimore. Please accept my humble.
Hare Krishna Gomati Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Mataji, for joining and giving your association. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare.
Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna
Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare,
Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Ram 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 Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare
Krishna
Ram
Krishna,
Ram Hare Hare
Hare
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Ram, Hare
Krishna
Ram,
Krishna
Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Ram Ram
Hare
Ram
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Hare
Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Ram Ram Hari Hari Krishna Hari Krishna Ram 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 Hari Hari Ram Ram Hari Hari Krishna 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 Hari Hari Ram 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 Hari Hari Krishna Hari Ram Hari Hari Krishna Hari Krishna Krishna Hari Ram 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 Hari Hari Krishna Hari Krishna
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna,
Ram Ram Hari Hari Krishna
Hare
Hari
Ram,
Krishna
Ram
Krishna
Ram, Hare Hare, Hare
Ram
Krishna,
Ram Hari Hari
Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Hari
Krishna,
Hari Krishna
Hare
Hari
Ram,
Krishna Krishna
Ram
Krishna
Ram,
Hari Ram Ram Hari Hari Krishna Hari Krishna
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hari
Krishna
Hari
Krishna,
Ram 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 Hari Hari Krishna Hari Krishna 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 Hari Hari Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hari Hari Ram Ram Hari Hari Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hari Hari Ram
Hare Krishna, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hari Hari Ram Ram Hari Hari Krishna Hari
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Ram Hari Hari Krishna Hari Krishna Krishna
Hare Krishna,
Ram
Hare
Ram
Krishna,
Hari
Hare
Hari
Krishna, Ram Ram,
Ram
Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Ram
Ram Ram Hari Hari Krishna Hari Krishna 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 Hari Ram Ram Hari Hari Krishna Hari Krishna Krishna
Ram
Hari
Ram,
Hari
Hare Hare,
Ram Hari Hari Krishna Hari Krishna
Ram
Krishna
Ram, Hare
Krishna
Hare,
Ram Hari Hari
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Ram Hare Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna
Krishna. Prabhuji is on the call.
Ram Ram Hare Hare
Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Are you ready, Prabhu? Yes.
Can you unmute? Yeah, Mataji, can you hear me now?
Yes, Prabhuji. Now I
Hare
can hear you.
Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji, I can hear you.
Okay, so reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 30, chapter entitled The Activities of the Prachetas, text number 46, 47, and 48. So what I'll do, I'll read one by one and we'll explain in between. Bhasmasat kriyamanam stan druman vikshya ridamaha agataha shamayan asa putran barishmata naye. After seeing that all the trees on the surface of earth were being burnt, were being turned to ashes, Lord Brahma immediately came to the sons of King Bharishaman and pacified them with words of logic. Purport. Whenever there is some uncommon occurrence on any planet, Lord Brahma, being in charge of the whole universe, immediately comes to control the situation. Lord Brahma also came when Hiranyakashipu underwent severe penances and austerities and made the whole universe tremble. A responsible man in any establishment is always alert to keep peace and harmony within the establishment. Similarly, Lord Brahma is also allowed to keep peace and harmony within this universe. He consequently pacified the sons of King Bharishaman with good logic. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantika Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padamana Shri Guru Vaishnavasya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatamritam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Avitamscha नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरतिषे नमः हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्ते तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So in this chapter we see the Prachetas, the sons of King Prachini Bharishat. They, before this, we saw how they were being instructed by Lord Shiva in the process of Krishna consciousness. Rudra Geet, very wonderful, amazing chapter in Bhagavatam, how Lord Shiva is actually glorifying Lord Vishnu and giving the process of Krishna consciousness to Prachetas. All these 10 brothers, they practiced this Krishna consciousness and achieved perfection. They were under the sea water. And what was the perfection they achieved? Lord Narayan himself came and blessed them. Then they offered their prayers and he left. After giving blessings, the Lord left and he told about this girl who, Marisha, who will be married to 10 brothers. So in history, these are two examples. One is the Pandavas, 5 brothers married to one Draupadi. And this is 10 Prachetas married to one Marisha. So when Lord already informed these 10 brothers that you will be married and you all are actually one. One in the sense, all of your consciousness is meeting, like-minded. They're like consciousness. Everyone is same. Everyone is Krishna conscious. All 10 of them. And even the girl with whom you will be marrying, she has similar consciousness, similar inclinations also. So then you get married and you'll be peaceful. You will have a son who will be no less than Brahma. And who will be that son? Daksha Prajapati. We will talk. In text 48, it will come his context. And in that context, we will talk about Daksha. So here, when they came out of the water, now King Prachini Parishad has already left. When Narada Muni preached, yes, we heard this Puranjan Vyakhyan, the story of Puranjan. When Narada Muni preached to Prachini Parishad through the story of Puranjan, he actually, Prachini Parishad, he left the kingdom. He became so detached that he left the kingdom. He told his minister, when my sons will come, tell them to take care of the kingdom, I'm leaving. He didn't even wait for them to come. They went to practice austerities and penances on the instruction of Prachini Parishad. And Lord says, because you followed the instruction of your father, I'm very pleased. And another thing, what he says is you cooperated with each other. Cooperation is so important. Lord was so pleased because they cooperated, which is one of the most difficult things, especially in this age of, which is the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. So then they came out, this Prachetas, they came out of the water And they saw all the land is filled with trees, long trees. There's no place. That's not good. Tree cannot grow everywhere. Where will people stay? So they became very angry. And in the previous verses, 2 verses, how they became so angry that they emitted fire and they started burning the forest. Like Lord Shiva emits fire at the time of devastation from his mouth, and then he burns everything on planet Earth. Completely become the entire planet is without any tree. So Prachita started burning. So when this was happening, Lord Brahma in Brahmalok, he got the information and he came. Very amazing purport Prabhupada is giving from a managerial point of view. If you are head of any establishment, if you are head of a family, a business, an organization, anything, if you are the leader, it is your responsibility to make sure that things are, in harmony, things are peaceful, everyone is having very friendly relationships among themselves. So that's Brahma's job because this universe, Brahmanda, belongs to Lord Brahma. Lord Vishnu had told him to take care. So he is responsible. So he immediately came and he said, pacified them with words of logic. If you have to pacify anyone, it has to be through logic. Nowadays, the pacification is happening through different means. And logic is most powerful. Why? If I'm agitated, and then because of my agitation, I'm actually agitating entire environment, or you can say damaging. Now there are different ways, sometimes emotional, sometimes with facilities, to try to pacify a person. But logical is actually intellectual preaching. It's not only emotional preaching, it's intellectual preaching. You are preaching to other person and he becomes convinced that he should not be doing this. So then he will stop, and in future also he will not repeat the same thing, which will create a disturbing situation in the environment. So that's why Brahma preached them and they stopped. And then Brahma also, in the next verse, we'll see, Tatra Vashishta Ye Vriksha Bhita Duhitaram Tada Ujjahara Ruste Prachetobhya Upadishta Swayambhuva. The remaining trees, now they burned half of the forest. Everywhere it was forest, so they burned almost half of them. The remaining trees, being very much afraid of the Prachetas, immediately delivered their daughter at the advice of Lord Brahma. So then Brahma said that because it was destined. Destiny is amazing. Kardam Muni, he did tapasya. Lord Narayan appeared. And Lord said, 3 days from today, Swayambhuva Manu will come along with his wife Shatrupa and daughter Devahuti. She is your wife. Here also, Lord Vishnu came and he said that this Marisha, the daughter, actually she is daughter of an Apsara, or the heavenly, woman with the sage Kandu. And but then nobody took care of her. This society girl from heaven, she left. The sage also left. And this girl is crying. So the moon god, he actually nourished this girl and the forest took care of her. And she was sent to heavenly kingdom. So now she'll be married back to, she'll be brought back and married to these Prachetas. The daughter of the trees is referred to in text 13 of the chapter. This daughter was born of Kandu and Pramalocha. The society girl Pramalocha, after giving birth to the child, immediately left for the heavenly kingdom. While the child was crying, the king of the moon took compassion upon her and saved her by putting his finger into her mouth. This child was carried, this child was cared for by the trees. When she grew up, by the order of Lord Brahma, she was delivered to Prachetas as their wife. The name of the girl was Marisha, as the next verse will explain. It was predominating deity of the trees that delivered the daughter. In this connection, Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada states, Vriksha Tat Adhishtar Adhishtara Devata. The trees means controlling deity of those trees. In Vedic literature, we find that there is a controlling deity of the water. Similarly, there is controlling deity of the trees. The Prachetas were engaged in burning all the trees to ashes, and they consider the trees their enemies. To pacify Prachetas, the predominating deity of the tree, under the advice of Lord Brahma, delivered the daughter Marisha. So Prabhupada writes that the trees does not mean that the trees they took their arms, their branches and gave the daughter. Trees here means the predominating deity of the trees. Like Ganga. We say Mother Ganga. Why? Because there is a predominating deity. Goddess Ganga, or Yamuna, or Saraswati, or the ocean. The ocean god appeared in front of Lord Ram. So there are personification of everything in this creation. And there's a deity who's taking care of it. Similarly, trees. So there's a deity, there's a personality who actually handed over Marisha to Prachetas. Still, it is in Kali Yuga, it's so inconceivable to even imagine this. Now, many people outside, they do not know about 10 brothers being married to one girl. They know Pandavas, and they cannot. It's very difficult to imagine. Even when it happened, when Yudhishthir told to Mother Kunti that we have got something special for you, she didn't see what they have got. She just said, distribute amongst yourselves, or share amongst yourselves. Obviously, they cannot chop off the Draupadi into 5 pieces and the sharing. And everyone was like, what did Mother say? And Yudhishthir was completely convinced that whatever words have come from mouth of Kunti is true. She never speaks anything lies. And to support her words, even she was shocked. What did I say? Everyone was shocked. Draupadi was also shocked. She thought that Arjuna has she thought that 5 husbands. Obviously, there's a history to it, and Vyasdev comes there. He sanctions. He says, no, it is destined. She's destined to be wife of 5 brothers. And everyone, even that time, people could not digest what to do about Kali Yuga, people digesting such a fact. Today also we see a woman can have few husbands, a man can have few wives, but after divorce. So many divorces going on. Every few years, new couple. New couple means new husband or new wife. Again, after few years, change. But people outside, they do not know about Pracheta's example. Similar thing. 10. Now, 5 Pandavas with one wife had 5 sons who were killed or mercilessly murdered actually by Ashwatthama. But here 10 Prachetas have one son, Daksha. So powerful. He was powerful. We'll talk in the next verse how by committing offense actually he was demoted. He was a Brahmana, he became Kshatriya. So how can you explain 10 fathers and one son? It's impossible. But then this has happened. So there are some things in the scriptures which we may not be able to understand. Okay, we cannot understand because we are, like Prabhupada says, that there was one question answer going on after the session, and Prabhupada, when someone asked that, how I want to calculate Lord Brahma's age and universe and all that, Prabhupada said, you with your teeny intelligence. Prabhupada says teeny, that's not tiny. You with your teeny intelligence and understanding, you want to measure the age of Brahma? Impossible. We get this answer from Bhagavad Gita. That what is the lifespan of Brahma? I cannot measure what is beyond me. So I cannot understand. But because Srimad Bhagavatam says so, Bhagavatam is an authority. Authority is saying, I believe. No need to discuss on that. How it happened, I don't know. But because Bhagavatam is saying, yes, there are ways. Because we are at a very low level. The rules for us are very different. Even if you see common example that the train or the bus or the car. Suppose the car is moving on the road and there's a signal, the car has to stop. But at the same time, there's a flight moving above, flying above, aircraft. It doesn't have to stop seeing the signal on the road. So the rules are different. So rules are very much different for different ages, for different kind of people with different consciousness. There are some rules which are to be followed by attached people who are attached to this material. There are some rules which are to be followed by detached people who are detached from this material. There are some rules which both have to follow. But there are some rules, there are some people who don't have to follow any rule. You don't have to follow. They are like transcendentalists. Lord Shiva is such a transcendentalist. Sati is glorifying Lord Shiva in Daksha Sabha. That how Lord Shiva is such a transcendent, he does not have to follow any rule. So this is from a different age, and we are in Kali Yuga, and we try to understand with our contaminated intelligence. So they married, and what happened next? Te cha brahmana adeshan marishan upaye mere yasyamahad avagnanad ajani ajana yonijaha. Translation. Following the order of Lord Brahma, all the prachetas accepted the girl as their wife. From the womb of this girl, the son of Lord Brahma named Daksha took birth. Daksha had to take birth from the womb of Marisha due to his disobeying and disrespecting Lord Mahadev, Shiva. Consequently, he had to give up his body twice. Very interesting. Let's read the purport. In this connection, the word Mahad Avagyana is significant. King Daksha was son of Lord Brahma. Therefore, in the previous birth, he was a Brahmana. But because of his behaving like a non-Brahmana, by insulting or disrespecting Lord Mahadev, he had to take birth within the semen of a Kshatriya. That is to say, he became the son of the Prachetas. Not only that, but because of his disrespecting Lord Shiva, he had to undergo the tribulation of taking birth from within the womb of a woman. In the Daksha Yajna arena, he was once killed by Lord Shiva's servant Veerbhadra. Because that was not sufficient, he again took birth from the womb of Marisha. At the end of Daksha Yajna and disastrous incident there, Daksha offered his prayer to Lord Shiva. Although he had to give up his body and take birth from the womb of a woman impregnated by the semen of a Kshatriya, he received all opulences by the grace of Lord Shiva. These are the subtle laws of material nature Unfortunately, people in this modern age do not know how these laws are working. Having no knowledge of the eternity of spirit soul and its transmigration, the population of the present age is in the greatest ignorance. Because of this, it is said in Bhagavatam, Manda Sumanda Matayo, Manda Bhagya Hi Upadhrita. The total population in the age of Kali Yuga is very bad, lazy, unfortunate, and disturbed by material conditions. Now, see what happens. Daksha was son of Brahma. That means he actually never entered the womb of any woman. Because sons of Brahma, they appeared just from Brahma's body. Narada Muni, Lord Shiva, Daksha, Manu, and other sages. They just appeared from Brahma's. Even Chatushkopala, they just appears. Uh, Their appearance is not that Brahma has to get married and then impregnate his wife. Not like that. Like Brahma appeared from Lord Vishnu, all these sons of Brahma, they appeared from Brahma's body. So they never had to undergo this pain of being in the womb. It's a pain. Lord Kapila says in third canto, the previous canto we saw, Lord Kapila says, fifth month fifth month of pregnancy is when the child becomes conscious. And next 4 months, he has to be in that state of consciousness and bound up with complete darkness. All the pains are described by Lord Kapil. What is the pain of a child who is within the womb of his mother? So he never had to go. But because he offended Lord Shiva, Vaishnava Aparad happened. He was Brahmana, now he became Kshatriya. Why? Because he impregnated with the semen of Kshatriya and had to enter in the body, in the womb of a woman. So many years he was a Brahmana, then he left, and then he again took birth after so many years. So he did tapasya. He pleased Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva gave him because Veerbhadra chopped off the head of Daksha for offending Lord Shiva and Sati. Sati committed suicide, and Daksha standing there didn't even object, didn't say anything. So he has to suffer. And Veerbhadra, who came out of, who appeared from the hair of Lord Shiva. When Lord Shiva heard from Narada Muni that how Sati had to give up, he was in pain and anger. And he just immediately plucked one strand of hair from his hair, and he just threw it on the ground. And Veerbhadra, this giant black personality appeared. And he went to the arena and he chopped off the head of the Daksha. And the head was destroyed. He put it in the fire of, in the sacrificial fire. Now you cannot connect. Now after that, Brahma has to again, see, Brahma's job is not easy. It's not that he's just doing tapasya. Anyway, there's a problem, he has to go. And Prabhupada writes that. So again, Brahma has to come. All the demigods, Brahma is leading all the demigods, goes to Kailash. And they pacified Lord Shiva. Shiva said, Shiva as Ashutosh gets pacified. Sati took birth again as a daughter of Himalaya, Parvati. And he again unites with Lord Shiva. And Shiva is Dheer. He's the Dheer Purush. So then, Lord Shiva comes to the arena because Brahma said, no, you have to come. Without you, how the yajna would be completed? You can hear me? So then Brahma said, give him some head. Daksha is dead, so you have to give some, you have to give his head back. Make him alive again. Lord Shiva says, now he's gone. His head is gone. I can give him other head. So there was a goat who was brought there for yagya, and Lord Shiva chopped off his head and gave to Daksha. Why it happened? I was just discussing with some devotee a few hours back. Two things Krishna cannot tolerate. Krishna can tolerate unlimited tolerance, Lord has, but two things he never tolerates. One, if you offend his devotees. Second is falsity. And we read even Narada Muni, that's obviously Leela, or Shiva, anyone who exhibits falsehood, they never exhibit falsehood, they are great, they're Mahajans, they're great authorities. But Krishna sometimes does such Leela that they exhibit that kind of quality, and Krishna actually smashes that. Even we read in Srimad Bhagavatam how Srimati Radharani actually was left alone. Why? Because she had that. How can even she have that? This is just a Leela to teach us. So Krishna never tolerates false ego. I am the doer. Even a trace he does not tolerate. And second, because of that, actually we offend Vaishnavas. Because Daksha was thinking he is some big man, and that false ego was there, and he offended Lord Shiva. He did both. And he had false ego and he offended also. Krishna cannot tolerate that. So whatever has happened is bound to happen. So even our bhakti, Lord Mahaprabhu says, the bhakti lata beach will get dried up completely if we commit Vaishnava, Atimata. So we have to be very, very careful in avoiding, we have to be extremely cautious. And Vaishnava offense is so subtle that we don't know. Actually, if you see, we're practically offending Vaishnavas every day. Somehow Krishna. And that's why it's not that Krishna is keeping us in his con and we are able to chant, so that means we are not offending. We are offending. And that's why we are getting a taste. We're not getting taste in holy name. Advancement is very, very, very slow or practically nil. The commitment towards the mission is not coming. So there are many manifestations we can see because of offenses. Nam aparad, Vaishnava aparad, Seva aparad. Actually, when we come to ISKCON newly, we are at a stage of, we are at a higher stage. As it is said, Jagai Madhai, they broke all the principles. They damaged the houses of people. They killed people. But they never committed Vaishnava because they were never with the devotees. So when we came new, we were chanting very nicely. But what happens? We stay with devotees, we know them, and then our anarthas come out. Familiarity is there, and we take these devotees and their shortcomings, and then we just focus on finding faults with them. It all starts gradually, and it's so subtle that you will not even realize that this is happening. Ramchandra Puri, he didn't know. He didn't thought that he's wrong by criticizing Vaishnavas, and then that lead to criticism of his own guru, and then eventually he criticized Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and was destroyed completely. So we have to be very careful, because what happens when we are associating with devotees? So all of us are human beings, and most of us, almost every one of us, have shortcomings. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. Everyone has shortcomings. But then when we associate with devotees, initially we see them as demigods. Practical. Think of those days when you were chanting 1 round, 2 rounds, you're struggling with your own material life, and the chanting was giving solace. All the inspiration in your life for living was coming from Vaishnavas, from devotees. And from first round to second round to third round to fourth round to eighth round to 12th round to 16th round, and then regular 16th round, following principles, reading Prabhupada books, hearing lectures, going for yatras, getting initiated, all this kept on going. Very nice growth, externally very nice growth. But then we also are associating more with devotees, and we see, oh, this devotee is this what, this devotee is this one, this devotee is this one, this devotee is this one. That actually leads to offenses. Yesterday was full moon day. Yeah, yesterday was full moon day, last full moon day of this year. We come to know because the way this ISKCON Juhu temple is designed, amazing. When we enter in the temple for Mangala Aarti, so there's a courtyard. Most of you have seen. If you have not seen, you've seen Vrindavan. Vrindavan and Juhu temple have same design. So in the courtyard, the moon will shine. We are entering from this side. The courtyard is open and the moon shines. So when there is full moon day, like today it was there, yesterday it was there, today also, people can see, devotees can see there is shine. The moonlight is falling on the courtyard. It looks very beautiful because it's marble temple, white marble, and the moon light just shines on it. Looks so amazing, so beautiful. Why we are able to see that today is full moon? Because of the light. First we see the light. We don't look for the moon because we are waiting for Krishna Chandra, the original moon, the real moon, to give darshan. So we don't look for it. But when suddenly you see the light is falling, so much light and it's shining, it's bright, you become so happy. Then what happens? You are able to glorify the light of the moon, the white beam, and the white marble it shines. Then finally you look at the moon. It looks beautiful. And then you keep looking. You are admiring the beauty of the moon. And then after some time, what happens? Oh, the moon is full. It's white and bright. But what I see there, the black spots. That's exactly what happens. When you started chanting, maybe someone who was very new, who even was like, maybe someone was chanting 4 rounds or 8 rounds or no rounds, introduced you to Krishna consciousness. And he was like the savior for you. He saved you. So then you are looking everything, that devotee, with so much of, awe and reverence, so much of affection for that devotee. And then eventually, you see other devotees and become so happy that this is what I wanted. This is the life. Everything else in this world is shunya, is zero. This association of Vaishnavas is everything. That's what we all came. But then what happens? You associate, you take prasad, and gradually we grow. Gradually we grow and we start offending. How? It is so subtle. You are staying with some devotee. Now you are associating with devotees, and then you see devotees, their eating habits are different, their walking habits are different, they're talking, everyone has different habits. And then you see externals. You see small mistakes in them. And then gradually, because of that offense, you keep magnifying those shortcomings. You keep magnifying those mistakes of devotees, which even Lord overlooks. Krishna is overlooking the mistakes of devotees. But we have taken the responsibility. Only if you have authority or if you have relationship, then you can see the shortcomings. Like either you are guru or manager, then it's your job. Otherwise, you don't have any authority. You have to close your eyes. You have to train your mind that even if something is going wrong, it's not my business. If I'm getting disturbed, I should just go and tell his authority and just be detached. It's like we travel. And sometimes we see there is someone, there's a drunkard, and he's just shouting and abusing, and he's like a crazy madman. And we are driving the car. We see that. What do? We do nothing. We just pass by. And if that person is disturbing someone, suppose that person is beating someone, we cannot stop because otherwise we will also get beaten. So then we can do one thing, we can call police. Dial 911 and call police and let them. And you just walk on. None of your business. That's exactly what we have to do even amongst devotees. You know why? Someone may say, no, Prabhu, but if you're seeing something wrong, you should do. Yes, you should do. You should correct. But do you have that compassion to correct? Do you have that humility to correct? Ideally, you should correct, but you should have some humility. If you correct someone without that, without relationship, without concern, that's not good. Then the relationship will become sour. And another thing, we ourselves have so much shortcomings and we tell others. How can we tell others? So Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur, he says, you should look within yourself and you will realize and correct. If you want to correct, you correct first yourself. Daksha started finding fault with Shiva. And what kind of faults? What is he saying? He is saying this Shiva has eyes like owl or frog. He said, I think it's a frog. He is saying the eyes of Lord Shiva are like frogs' eyes. Can you see how low he can stoop? This is ahankar. This is false ego. Everyone and Mother Sati. Then actually she says when she comes next time before Daksha's killing, when she committed suicide, before that she gives very beautiful verses. She speaks. She tells to Daksha that you are talking about Lord Shiva's situation. Even Brahma, even Lord Brahma, your father Brahma, the practical controller of the universe, he takes the flower from the lotus feet of Lord Shiva and put on his head. That is position of Shiva. And sometimes, and she says that Daksha, you are finding fault with my husband, who's all auspicious. Even Brahma cannot find fault. He does not say anything. That my husband is living in crematorium. And you have the authority to say. So sometimes we see that in devotee circle. That we are very junior. And then we pinpoint, we find fault with even seniors, even equals. And we know that even our seniors, our superiors, they are not saying anything. Why should we interfere? Krishna has not given us the responsibility to interfere in that matter. If our seniors are quiet, our superiors are quiet, that means there is something. They know better. Why we should get into it? So that's what happens with offenses. And Daksha was demoted. He was a Brahmana, he became Kshatriya. You know how much time it takes to become Brahmana from Kshatriya? For a Shudra, if he perfectly follows the duties of Shudra, perfectly follows. There are duties of Shudra given in Srimad Bhagavatam. For 1000 lifetimes, then he becomes a Vaishya. And that Vaishya follows perfectly the principles of Dharma according to his ashram or his varna. After 1000 lifetimes, he becomes Kshatriya. And Kshatriya, following the order of Kshatriya Dharma, for 1000 lifetimes, he becomes Brahmana. And he was demoted. Such a great loss. But still, because he pacified Lord Shiva, he was still Daksha Prajapati. And in the 6th canto, the same Daksha will actually have 10,000 sons and then 1,000 sons. And then he offends Narada Muni. Same mistake he is doing. He offended Shiva. What happened? And Narada Muni actually is a great Vaishnava. And now he's offending Narada Muni. He calls Narada Muni as Asadhu, which is the 6th canto. So this is what offenses may lead to. And it starts very subtle. Sometimes, it can be so subtle that you see there is some devotee and, suppose we're sitting in a class. One devotee, everyone has their phone. And one devotee, sometimes, especially in India, we see that some devotees, they're, older in age, elderly devotees. And they have the phone and suddenly their phone starts ringing. Now they become a little, first of all, it's a stress situation, their phone is ringing. Sometimes they even don't know. And the phone is sometimes in bag or something, they open and they don't know how to put phone on silent. It happens with elderly. We have seen that. Devotees were like 60, 70. But they're not used to it. They're not very young. Their reflex actions are not so fast. And then you see what kind of comments our mind is giving about them. That subtle can be offensive. Because we're thinking, we cannot ignore. Actually, we should ignore. It's okay. Yeah, it's disturbing. Everyone is disturbed. The class, the speaker has to stop for a few minutes or for a few moments. But what can he do? He's trying. Sometimes they don't know how to press the button, how to put it on silent. Such small things. Then we have different eating habits, we have different walking, talking habits. Prabhupada says in Nectar of Devotion lecture series, which he gave in 1972 in Kartik in Vrindavan, the first lecture. In the first lecture, he says, Vaishnava is a Vaishnava. There's a bogus concept because Indians were saying, oh, American Vaishnavas, or this Malacha Vaishnavas. And Prabhupada was very disappointed. Vaishnava is Vaishnava. Once you become Vaishnava, you're a Vaishnava. Now there is no upadhi, there is no classification. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is talking about the previous history or the past karma or the past things of a devotee is an offense. Now he has become devotee. Anything past being spoken will lead to an offense. That's the situation. So we should be very careful not to talk about past of devotees, whether in public or private. Public is a disaster. It will be a disaster. We should never talk. Ajamil is Ajamil. It's purified. Ashwatthama. Yes, when we talk about Ashwatthama, we talk that what heinous acts he performed. But then, who is Ashwatthama today? He will be the next Vyasdev. He's already purified. Next Treta Yuga, He will become Vyasa and he will write all the scriptures. Should we be offending Ashwatthama now? No. When it comes in context, that's okay. Sometimes we hear about Indra. Yes, in the context of Bhagavatam, otherwise Indra, Krishna has given him entire universe. He's king of the demigods. He's not small bacha. So then sometimes, we just talk about devotees and they have got purified. It may be possible that you know some devotee before and now both of you became devotee. So then you respect today's, his today's standard or today's status that he is a Vaishnava. Not that, I know him from childhood, he's like that. But we do it. We talk about it. Knowingly, unknowingly. And what is the only solution we can protect ourselves from offenses? To take shelter of holy name. Very important, because holy name will cleanse the consciousness, purify our heart. And once the heart is purified, it will not offend anyone. It's very important. Prahlad Maharaj says, Na te swartha gatim Vishnu. So the real intelligence is to protect your Krishna consciousness, what you have received after billions of lifetimes. And at any cost, you must protect. And what are the two dangers? False ego and offense. So very, very careful with especially with the offense at the lotus feet of devotee. These examples of Ambarish Maharaj and Durvasa for us to learn what can happen with Vaishnava. To very, very careful. If you are not in a position to correct someone else, just keep quiet. Let Lord do. Lord is watching. We are not bigger than Lord. Lord has not made us in charge. That you take care. He made Brahma in charge. He has made Guru in charge. Who are we? If you have some compassion, some sympathy, some affection, some love for some personality, and you feel that that person is going in wrong direction, yes, you can correct him or her. That's okay, because there's positive vibes in your consciousness. It's not negative. So that is very important. So what we see today, what we saw is how these prachetas, they became angry and they were pacified by Lord Brahma, and Brahma told to the forest, the trees, the personification deity of the trees, that you gave this Marisha, this girl, and they got married, and the son Daksha was born, and the same Daksha who was son of Brahma, he had to enter the womb of mother, and from a Brahmana he was demoted to Kshatriya because of his offenses at the lotus feet of Mahadev. And we should be very protective of ourselves. Protect your bhakti. Hare Krishna. Any comment or any question? Anyone wants to speak?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, all goes to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very, very enlightening. And we have to be very careful about Vaishnava Aparadh. So, Prabhuji, in the last verse 48, it says Daksha took birth. So, his name was again Daksha or something else, Prabhuji?
Daksha.
Same.
He was given same duty, same name. Yes, even duty. That's why in 6th canto you see in Daksha Prajapati.
Okay. Yeah. Of course, he is a great personality. That's why his name remains same. It's like, yeah. Thank you.
Hare Krishna
So we
Prabhuji.
stop here. Yes.
Hare Krishna. Koti Dandavat Pranam. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki jai. Thank you very much for your deep devotional association. Hari Hari Gauranga.
Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for the beautiful class. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Is there anybody having any questions for Prabhuji?
Thank you, Prabhuji. Very nice class. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Kaumudaki Mataji.
Yes. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, very barely we can hear you, Mataji.
Oh, I say very nice.
Very nice class, Mataji.
Okay.
That's what she said.
So can we stop here?
Yeah, yes.
Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you so much for enlightening us today on this topic of Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhu. We would like to have your association again in future. Let us all offer our obeisances to Prabhuji. Vancha kalpa
Vaishnavebhyo
Shri Vishnu ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Chakravarti Prabhuji ki jai.
Jai. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandvat Pranam. Hare Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavatam
Hare Krishna.
ki jai.
Thank you, Prabhu.